Hello, everybody, and welcome to Go, my favorite sports team. I'm Tyler, your master of balls and holes, your sports know-how person, joined with my co-host, Mark.
You seem nervous.
I am.
You seem way more nervous than you usually would be in these episodes. Why?
We have a very special guest who is the greatest water polo player to ever come out of the United States. And as a water polo former player and coach, I'm a little anxious.
You know, that's funny because in so many of these other episodes, Tyler's been saying, I'm the greatest water polo player to ever come out of the United States. And he kept saying that. And I was like, man, I believe you. I believe you.
No.
And then you come along, the greatest water polo player. And I'm like, I think he might have been lying.
No. Listen, I'm not in the USA Water Polo Hall of Fame. Our guest, Tony Azevedo, is. He's a 5-time Olympian, including a silver medal in 2008.
Damn.
He's 5-time Pan American gold medalist. He's won the Heisman for water polo 4 years in a row, all through college at Stanford. I mean, just overall the greatest water polo the United States has ever seen.
Thank you, guys.
He also has his own podcast.
Oh,
the Tony Azevedo podcast with his co-host, who's a comedian, Dave Williamson.
Wow.
That's right. Shout out to Dave. We had coffee the other day, and we got to get that thing started. It's hard to get both of us, especially with him doing so many of his comedy skits and me and water polo together, but we're going to do it.
It sounds somewhat familiar.
I could introduce you to a bunch of technology that you can do where you can do recordings online. It's easy to do now. Just with your phone, you can do a podcast episode, no problem.
Really?
Yeah, yeah.
All right,
yeah.
We got to start doing it.
I'll get you hooked up, yeah. In this day and age, with all this technology, there's barely any excuse to not do a podcast unless you're, like, unbelievably busy.
What? Why are you looking at me like that?
I don't know. But anyway, welcome to the show. I am very impressed by all those accolades. I do know the Olympics. I'm not that ignorant. But one world that I don't know very much is water polo. He's talked endlessly about it because he won state, and he was very proud of that. And he was like, it was really impressive. I'm not trying to belittle it in any way. But the Olympics, that seems so much more impressive.
Okay, in all fairness, it was the first state championship that Milford High School had seen since like 1969 by their golf team. So it was a big deal.
That is a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, and where's Milford?
Milford is in Cincinnati, Ohio.
Cincinnati.
Yeah, it's a small town on the outskirts of like the northeast part of it. And actually, didn't the girls' water polo team, they also went to state?
They went to state. They did not win, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite spots to visit out there. Because the water polo, we were talking about the squirrels, right?
Mm-hmm.
My master's team, but also just the talent, the level of talent out in Ohio in general in that area. And then when the clinic ends, I can just walk right over to Kentucky and get some whiskey. So it's really a nice, perfect spot for me.
Oh yeah, that's great. That's great. Yeah. Oh, see, I didn't even know you were a part of the Squirrels until today. And I've played with them multiple times back when I had just gotten out of high school and I was playing club polo in college.
Okay.
But I coached for Moose Water Polo with my former coach, Paul Splitt, who you know.
Yeah.
And then you also know the 6'9" monster, Dan Matulis, who I played with in high school. He was a freshman when I was a senior.
And so when he first made the national team, we're training in Serbia, and he's doing this great job of just turning and almost wrestling in the water. And then you just told me that you were his coach because you were a wrestler, and maybe those are the moves that Dan learned.
Yeah, I played with him in spring polo, and one of the big things is I knew I was on my way out. And believe it or not, I played goalie up until that point. I was our goalie until junior year. I finished out, was all-state honorable mention, and then senior year, they moved me to field because I had a cannon for an arm from playing baseball, and then my wrestling experience. So we actually had kind of two goalies in front of the goal senior year when we won state.
Okay.
And so when we did spring polo, I played field, and so I went against Dan a lot because that's when we decided, okay, he's not going to be a goalie, even though he has the size for it and would be great. He just doesn't have that reaction time or mannerisms that you need to be in the goal. And that's when we were working on him being a whole set. And so after we won state, I went against an All-American who we shut down. I think he had 2 goals in the entire state championship game. And so when I was playing with Dan, every time I would stop him from doing something, I'd tell him what I did and how to counter what I did to beat it.
Wow.
And then I'd again counter his counter. So it was a constant chess match to a way it was mind games, but at the same time I was trying to teach him so that he the changing of the guard could happen. He could dominate.
It's so interesting in water polo, right? The only way we're taught to recruit athletes is swimming,
Yeah.
right? Because a swimmer basically goes, I'm sick and tired of looking at this black line all day. Those guys seem to be having way more fun throwing a ball at that goalie or in a goal. I want to do that. And so traditionally, really, most Olympians, athletes came from swimming.
Yep.
See, I came from baseball. Right?
Okay.
I didn't swim at a young age. I was baseball, but I was lucky enough to have an Olympic father in water polo, so of course I was going to do that. But wrestling would be an interesting route for us to start recruiting, because I am recruiting. Like,
Yeah.
I go to my kid's school and I'm like, you ever heard of water polo?
Well,
Yeah.
see, my problem with that is, besides all the, I don't have a cannon for the arm. I have no idea. I did marching band in high school, but I also did like some sports. But the thing is, with wrestlers, I imagine they might be like me and they might have really dense bones, because I go in the pool and I sink. I just sink like a rock. There's no floating that occurs. I've been in an ocean and like saltwater pools, stuff like that. I still sink like a rock. And so he keeps telling me that it's okay. You'll learn to swim.
That's
It's
because
like,
I sink too.
that's what you say you sink, but it doesn't mean you sink. You're
I
just
do.
like,
I just know how to tread.
I don't know any of this, because it's just like, it's the pool is somehow repulsive to me. I don't like the ocean. I don't like larger bodies of water. Even in a swimming pool in school, I always thought like as soon as I would get in, like a shark would magically materialize in the water. And I have this deep unsettling fear of water in general. So I think that might be more of an inhibition for people coming from, say, like other sports in there and going to water polo. But I have a follow-up question. I always have long, rambling things that lead to a question that is actually pertinent.
Okay.
When it comes down to recruiting, I feel like the visibility of water polo is not there, because I advocate for people that don't watch sports and don't necessarily know it. So not only I imagine there's a challenge recruiting for it. How do you think that you can get more people just interested in the sport in general? Like when people are watching it, I saw it on the Olympics, this past Olympics in Tokyo, and I watched the matches and I was like, this is very interesting and engaging. But when it comes on a high school level, like I never went to a single game of his, and I liked this guy. I swear I did. I was friends with him. How do people get more involved in just watching this sport?
I think it's the top and bottom. Okay. So if you have focus on the bottom, meaning teaching the game, talking to kids, creating more awareness of water safety, things like that, but using water polo instead of swimming, because water polo is actually a better way, because you're learning how to be vertical, horizontal throwing in the water, than swimming, where surfers a lot of times are ones that can do both vertical and horizontal, right? So if we're doing a better job of talking water polo at a younger age, better coaches, growing water polo in places like Ohio, then I think that's going to get people understanding, hey, there's a sport called water polo. Then the next thing that comes in is the top, right? Things that we're doing, that you guys we're doing right now, inviting me on this show, we're exposing this wonderful sport that hopefully people are going to look into more and be like, this is great. I think ultimately the biggest problem in our sport is we don't have that professional league, right? We don't have it on TV all the time, yet they have cornhole on TV, which drives me crazy. Let's not get into cornhole.
Poker and all this other stuff.
That's right.
Yeah.
But, we were talking about it. There's no private like stadium for water polo. So without a private stadium for water polo in the country, where can you create an event, right? You go to a hockey game. I don't know hockey. I like it, but I don't know it. But it's fun. There's music, there's food, there's drinks. Like, I love it, right? There's gear. You go to a water polo game, they don't sell water. You got to sneak in your own water, right? You go to water fountains, they shut down post-COVID. There's not even water anymore. So it's like, why, what's so great about this, right? So I think, honestly, if we invested in having, that private stadium, that we could create a professional league here. Even swimming doesn't have a professional league here. They go to Europe because they can create their events. So I think there's their double-edged sword there.
And I fully agree with you, because that's what we did with Moose Water Polo when Paul Splitt founded it with Nick Hellwig. I got brought on to coach because of my goalie experience and then field playing experience. And the key thing we were focusing on is getting younger people in, younger people that already started swimming and were part of these different programs, and getting them interested in this sport so that they learn the fundamentals earlier. And then it gets exposed to the parents, it gets exposed to them. And you see, especially the fitness level that swimming does, add water polo to it and how much endurance it requires and skill. It works on eye-hand coordination. Like the amount of motor skills that water polo gives over swimming just becomes more useful later in life. And like you said, makes for stronger swimmers in general. In fact, there was a study done when I was like a senior year in high school where they showed that swimmers who play water polo actually perform better also in swimming, in competitive swimming. And it's slightly different because in water polo, you have to swim with your head up in order to dribble the ball. You have to be able to switch from those two positions, the muscles that you use to be able to tread with the egg beater. And then it works really well with especially breaststroke. It's just creates a better dynamic and a greater fitness level. And I think if we can introduce it younger, then that exposure will come. I had never thought about trying to do like an official arena and professional league. And there's that, I don't remember where it is, but there's an oceanside like carved into the rock pool where the waves come in. And
Bondi and Sydney.
Yeah.
I played in that pool. But that's an iconic pool, right? And that they would bring us all-stars out to play against the Australian national team. And immediately after, we joined the celebrities up there that are watching the game. I mean, it was so cool. And yes, that can grow into a professional league. Australia has a professional league.
Europe does, right?
Oh, Europe, I played.
Yeah, you played
12
in
seasons.
Italy?
In Italy for 5, Montenegro, Croatia, and Brazil. Brazil has a professional league. We don't because we can't do. We're all the pools are dependent on. It's a high school pool.
And then it has the shallow end.
It's a community pool. You can only get it for this hours. It's a college pool. It's only for them. You know, it's like, or it's going to cost you $50,000 to rent the pool and maybe have someone else come and serve food.
Right.
So it really limits our ability to again, create those events that other high-end sports we want to emulate, but we're never going to get there without the event, right?
Yeah.
Without the stadium, which takes to the next level is like maybe if that's not going to happen, is beach polo the future of water polo?
What is beach polo?
So beach polo is created, and you know it's been around forever. And why places like Croatia are so popular is because in the summertime, I go every year. My son was born there in Dubrovnik. You walk out, and they're playing water polo in the sea there, right?
Oh.
So they created a faster 4-on-4 type version where you basically play 3 5-minute quarters, whoever wins, and then the last one, go into a shootout. It's quicker, it's less athletes, but the best thing about it is you're just playing in the sea and you can have games anywhere in the world, right? And if it just happened, actually, perfect timing, it happened about this last weekend, so 3 days ago or 4 days ago, they had the World Beach qualifiers or the World Beach water polo games. The final was Montenegro, always a superpower in water polo.
Yeah.
All of Eastern Europe is, and Egypt. Egypt, which you haven't heard of in the water polo scene for 30, 40 years. So because they're playing in the sea and because it's smaller, now we can grow the sport around the country to different countries, different continents, because the easiness to get in and play is so much easier than going to a pool and finding time.
What I always find fascinating is I'm nodding my head being like, oh yeah, Egypt. I didn't know Egypt didn't have a league. I didn't know Montenegro was always dominant. This is like such a fascinating thing because the more I learn about sports from this guy here, the more it's so crazy that what seems niche to someone, an outside observer, has like this robust culture, this diverse group of people from all over the world that play it, and these issues that I've never heard of, because I was just asking you about like handball or something like that. How does handball get started? How does competitive juggling get started? Where do people go? And that's what I always ask, like, where do people go? And it's so strange to me that for a sport that I know is established, because I hear from him all the time, water polo doesn't have an official stadium. I'm sure that like there are pools and things where people go, but it doesn't get supported, except I imagine when the Olympics are coming up and the U.S. is like, oh yeah, we got to get our good people back in here. Like, I'm sure they reach out and they're like, oh, come back here, we'll get you like some money and some training to go into the Olympics. Or is it just kind of like a call and they're like, hey, can you go to the Olympics this year? And then you say yes or no. I have no idea how it works.
No, so to make the team, it's a process, right? College is a huge thing, obviously, and I think that's a big draw for athletes in water polo because we have, Division I, we have Harvard, Princeton, Stanford, UCLA, USC. I mean, great schools all around, Brown University, that all play water polo, and they're all Division I.
But the majority of them are West Coast.
Majority are West Coast, and
Yeah.
all the UCs, right? And then you have Division II, Division III. I mean, you're looking at 70 schools, more than 70 schools, 80 schools that are playing, that have D1. So that's a big draw. And usually what happens within high school and college, these national team coaches are scouting and then inviting these athletes to kind of like a invitational. And then through that, they get chosen to be on the national team, then chosen to be on the Olympic team. So for me, I was, a sophomore in high school. I was recognized as one of the best. I was invited to the national team. They did a swim set, which was one of the famous swim sets there was 10 400s, which is miserable for anyone.
400 meters?
400 meters. 400 meters. I didn't finish it. I was told to get out.
Oh.
I went home. Next year, I got faster. I was invited again. And this time I was ready for it. They didn't do it, but I did well and ended up making the national team and slowly having my checklist of people to beat until I became, one of the youngest players to play at 18.
Oh, that's crazy. At 18, you went to the Olympics?
Yeah, so I graduated December of my senior year of high school. I was taking zero period before, and then I left in January on training with the national team and then made my first Olympics before I went to Stanford.
Oh, that's insane.
Yeah.
The amount of steps that it took just to get to the point where you were on the national team was astonishing. And I think is it kind of shitty that they made them do 400 meters 10 times and then the next time they don't do it.
And then they don't. Right?
Isn't that unfair?
And how are you going to tell a good water polo player by the 10 400s?
Which also on top of that, I came, like we talked about, I didn't come from swimming. I didn't know how to do a flip turn when I played water polo in high school. I didn't swim competitively until college. And so I hopped in the pool.
What's a flip turn?
Oh, gosh. So it's when you're swimming and you're going towards the wall.
Uh-huh.
And in order to do the turn, there's a turn in freestyle, which is the one where you're doing the forward crawl generally because it's the fastest stroke. You flip under the water so that your feet go against the wall. So then you can just push off the wall. And it's a faster turn.
Oh, okay.
So it's a flip
It's
and
what
you
they
turn.
do when I see
as opposed to a
it.
touch turn that you see in like breaststroke or butterfly.
Yeah, so my favorite swim practice. So I joined a swim team for 2 years because I was not fast enough, right? Mm. And I remember we had these practices where it was like, okay, it's flip, turn, and dive day. And I'm like, what? And all we did all day was dive in, kick, get out. Then we just flip, turn, kick. It was like, but it's so important in swimming because that great dive or that great flip turn compared to a touch and go or a jump in the water and swim is a massive difference in a gold medal, a bronze, or not even qualifying, right? But my God, I love those days. It was like no swimming at all. You just focused on the technique of jumping in the water gracefully, spinning, perfect flip turn, kick.
I mean, it sounds, to me, it sounds terrible because I, again, abhor swimming on such like a fundamental core level just because it's so exhausting.
Yeah.
I have a pool and I still don't swim in it. Not because I'm afraid, but because I'm afraid of how poorly I will perform. But it's so fascinating that kind of level of technique. Do you do a lot of? You correct me if I'm wrong, but in water polo, do you dive in a lot?
No, but this is when I was in high school trying to be a swimmer. I had to be faster.
Yeah,
I had to do that.
Right.
Now in water polo, when they're training, yeah, they do swim sets and things like that, but the technique becomes something much different, right? Even the kids I teach I have an academy. Our 6-8 Academy in Fountain Valley, and everything is slow, monotonous, and it's not hard for these kids. It's just they got to get this repetition because otherwise they'll sink in the water, right?
Right.
So going back to you, like I full-heartedly believe, and I've seen it, that, right, I'm going to take you, and for 2 weeks, you're not getting out of the water. You're going to get out to go eat and go to bed, and then you're going to go back in. But you're not going to do anything except be in the water. You're going to feel so much more comfortable in the water after those 2 weeks because the longer you're in, your body figures it out, right? We sit, I mean, it's not like our bodies are adjusting. No, in the water, you're constantly adjusting. So you're moving your hand and going, oh, that makes a splash. Oh, that splash pulls me this way. Oh, all of a sudden I don't mind water in my face. And it's crazy how when these kids come to us, they're missing these little fundamentals, and all of a sudden you fix it. They can egg bead with their hands out holding a 10-pound ball for 3 minutes. I mean, it's phenomenal.
I've never had that opportunity. Like as a kid, I was never taught. I was never taken to the community pool or anything like that. My parents never like gave me swimming lessons. I just never had the shot. And I think like that's probably the dividing thing between people that get into water sports specifically and more running and like football and baseball, stuff like that. Is like they don't have the early introduction. It's like that first dip, throw the baby in the deep end of the pool kind of mindset.
That's literally what my mom did with me and my brother. Basically, as soon as we were old enough, we were in a pool. We had a pool, like one of those pop-up pools in the backyard, so that we became comfortable in the pool. And then we had swim lessons and everything, because it was one of those things that was important to my mom. Like, you're going to be comfortable in the water. And believe it or not, I had a lot of the fears of going in the deep end, similar to you, that a shark would materialize and come and eat me, or there's monsters in the deep. And now I'm comfortable. And like, it's from water polo, it's from being in the pool, it's from just being around it for a long time. I still have the issue occasionally with the ocean, but I get over it.
I'm never going to get over the ocean.
I'm still afraid of sharks, dude.
Yes.
I'm afraid of jellyfish more than sharks.
100% afraid of sharks. Jellyfish.
Yeah, I got stung by a man-o-war when I was in Hawaii.
Ooh.
That's worse for me, because I'm like, if a shark eats me, whatever. I'll probably die, but a jellyfish hurts.
I have this literal paralyzing fear of the ocean. I did a video a while back where I was out, we were doing deep sea fishing, and then when we came in, we got close to shore and enough that we could see the shore, like not too much farther than the beach swimmers were anyway. And we did a video where we had life jackets on and we were getting in, and my buddy Ethan, he goes out there and he swims out. He's like, "Come rescue me, I'm drowning." Oh. And I couldn't do it. Like, I couldn't do it. And eventually, I finally, for the video, I jumped in. But as soon as I got in and I rushed out to him and I tried to pull him back, and I just I abandoned him. I kicked him away, and then I had to get back to the boat. So it was like, I might be able to swim someday, but ocean, I'm never going to be comfortable with.
Yeah. There's some to be, and it's really unfortunate because I know it, but it's just, it can't get out of my head. I mean, I'll go in the ocean, and even in Croatia or Italy, I'm out there with these trips that we do, and we're playing in the middle of the sea. Are there sharks there? No, there's no sharks there. But my mind won't stop doing the Jaws, like, doo-doo. Like against the water, playing water polo, I'm not doing that, right? But all of a sudden, it's just so beautiful. I'm out in the middle, and now I can't see anything, and doo-doo. It's crazy. That movie destroyed me.
So does beach water polo not appeal to you because it's in the ocean?
No, it totally does. Because it's near the shore.
Yeah.
And then now in Australia, beach polo is in the near the shore, but they have shark nets because there's great white sharks and things there. Mm-hmm. So probably that doesn't appeal to me, but everywhere else in the world does.
It's always fascinating to me because all three of us obviously have a fear of a shark attack, but it's more likely for you to be struck by lightning than to be attacked by a shark. Statistically.
Look, my statistic ability to be bit by a shark is 0 when I'm not in the ocean.
Well,
when I'm in the ocean, it goes up a lot.
I mean, so does being struck by lightning, but...
In the ocean?
Yeah.
Really?
Yes. Lightning strikes the ocean far more than strikes land.
Then this reinforces my point. I'm equal chance of lightning in and out. I'm still not going to go in. Anyway.
So, actually, we were able to get some audience questions from some of our listeners, and one of them asks, playing water polo, have you ever thought about like playing handball? Because they're very similar. Handball is very much just on land versus water polo being in the pool. Like the rules are a little bit different because there's a ring that you have to be able to step behind before you shoot. But the way they move the ball, they kind of dribble it, but it's on the ground as opposed to swimming in front of your face. But they still have to catch and throw with one hand. So
yes, and that's a great question because when you brought up handball, Hungary recruits from handball. One of the greatest Hungarian water polo players, Peter Biros, hurt his leg and then recuperated in the water and became a 3-time Olympic gold medalist in water polo because he had all the arms, the understanding, the catching one arm, the fake. There's one shot that they do in handball. If you see a penalty, they sit there and they look like they're throwing it as hard as they can, but they let their wrist go and the ball just goes
kind of floater.
Goes over. We call it the suvelist in Croatia.
Oh.
And that's something that all the Eastern European that have handball water polo players do. And when I was over there, I learned, and I was so proud to be able to do it. But we had a running joke, myself, the head coach UCLA, Adam Wright, Merrill Moses, Ryan Bailey, a lot of us, that if LA was going to win in 2016, the bid, because we went for 2016, that we were going to come back as the Olympic handball team. Because there was no handball here.
Yeah.
And we're a team. We throw the ball well. We understand how it works. So, yeah. But I would love to play handball. But now I think they've done a good job. Beach handball is actually growing. We won the world championships, I think, like 7-8 years ago. Mm-hmm. So watch out, handball.
Oh, wow.
U.S. is coming.
It's so crazy because handball is another thing that I discovered at the Tokyo Olympics by watching it. I was like, I've never heard of this sport before, period. And I'm like, here it is at the Olympics. And so it's just so fascinating to see these things grow. Speaking of the Olympics, is my big circular logic coming back to it. Tyler here always tells me stories about when he was playing. He says he definitely made me not want to play it because of these reasons. He said that when you're playing water polo, it gets so violent under the water, and so many people would just grab him by the scrot.
I didn't say so many people. I told you of one story in particular where somebody grabbed my teammate. This was when I first joined water polo. It was sophomore year of high school. And my friend Riley Kurtz, we were playing a team that was notably played dirty, who we ended up beating in the state championship my senior year, which is why we called it the Vengeance Tour. We were beating all the teams that beat up on us. But this guy had literally grabbed his testicles and squeezed. And my friend put him in a headlock and started like slamming him into the water.
Wow.
So my question is, do people play dirty at the Olympic level? Because I don't know, were there cameras underwater when at the Olympics?
There are, yes.
Yeah.
You're always going to have in every sport the dirty player.
Oh, yeah.
Right. I mean, you look in basketball, like what was the guy who was talking to LeBron and saying,
Draymond Green?
Or Draymond. Right.
Oh, there's someone else.
But there was the guy before that, Dylan Brooks, I think. Brooks, right?
Was it Brooks or was it
from Memphis?
I think
that said, like, I poke bears or something.
Yeah, that might be it. Yeah.
Look, you're always going to have those guys. Now, in water polo, yes, you're a little more exposed because all they see is what's above water. But as you get more comfortable and at a higher level, it really becomes almost impossible to grab, right? So, like, I played my entire career. I got grabbed twice, and they were when I was younger by a dirty team at the Olympics, and I was picked on because I was the smallest guy in the world for 5 Olympics or for 4 of the 5. Never got anything grabbed down there because my hips were never down. Meaning, if my hips are down, it's like you and I standing face to face. Well, you can grab me, but if I'm like this and my hips are behind me, you can't grab me. The only thing you can do is grab my head, which would mean you're kicked out of the game.
Yep.
Oh, really?
That's above the water.
If anything out of the water, you grab someone's head, you're out of the game, right?
Wow, I didn't know
it's
that.
the exclusion fouls or the kickouts, as we'd call
He was
them.
talking about it. I wasn't listening. He did a whole primer on water polo for me, and he explained it all, and I listened half the time. I swear.
You were also really tired that day, in all fairness.
Yeah, that's fair, yeah. But also, it was the way he was describing it was really boring. I'm just kidding. Okay, so I'm sorry to make it like so many questions about the Olympics, but I'm always so curious about the Olympics. I've never been myself. Which one of the ones you went to was your favorite?
So for sure, my favorite of the 5 was Beijing because we won the silver medal. We go into that Olympics rated 13th in the world.
13th out of how many?
Out of
16 teams?
Well, at the World Championships, like 16, but at the Olympics, there's only 12.
Oh, really?
So
you were
technically
13th out of 12? You weren't even on the board? That seems like an insult.
Because we qualified from the Americas, we were able to qualify.
Yeah, who missed those Olympics? Was it I know Italy was there. Obviously, a lot of the Eastern Europeans. Was it France that missed it that year? I can't remember.
France was out, yeah. There was a decent amount of Europeans because they only take a certain amount from each region, right? And so we were in there. We ended up upsetting Croatia by 3, which put us in this situation where basically Serbia lost a game, we believe on purpose, in order to play us back again because they did not want they'd beaten us since they were a country. We'd never beaten them.
Oh, yeah. Wow.
And so we end up playing them in the semifinals. We beat Germany to go first.
Which is wild, too, because Germany was rated really well that year.
They were very good. We end up beating Serbia 10-5.
Which is unheard of.
Which is unheard of. To beat them in general is hard enough, but to beat them 10-5, and this is one of the greatest teams ever, and then go against, they just made a movie about this team, the greatest Hungarian dynasty of all time, and go into that game tied going into the third quarter. I mean, it was amazing. We're in the gold medal game. The U.S., the 13th ranked in the world, and we're here. We just annihilated the only team that used to be able to compete with Hungary, and now we're here. And then let's not talk about the next quarter.
This also was really exciting to me because this was fresh out of my senior year because we graduated. And that was the next Olympics that came about. So it was early in college and I was able to watch it. And it was just incredibly exhilarating. I think I was at my aunt's house and I was like, we have to turn water polo on. We have to. This is the best the U.S. has ever done in the Olympics. And it was just exhilarating to watch.
See, now this is fascinating to me because these are the stories that I love to hear. I may not be a sports watcher, but I love to hear about those moments of triumph. And it's so easy to get them in sports because it's so easy to like have those sudden comparisons. 13th out of 12 is the funniest headline you could put on something. And then turning around and getting silver medal, like that's incredible. I don't know a thing about Serbia, but you just told me that they're incredibly tough and you beat them 10-5. I'm like, fuck yeah! I don't know a thing, but I'm like all about it. There was a boxing event that we both went to recently called the Creator Clash, and it's just a bunch of YouTubers that train for a year, and I'm no disparaging to their training. They put in the work, but it's amateur boxing. But a lot of people watching have never seen boxing before. They've never even heard of the idea of rooting for their team. But when, say, their favorite creator was fighting and they won, and they're like, oh my God, I get it. I get why people that watch sports is for those moments of triumph, to root for the team that you believe in. And I think like if more people heard, not even just like the teaching about swimming and stuff, it's really boils down to those stories of inspiration, like you being part of the team that went that far and like made waves. Made waves. Whatever. I didn't mean that. Like, I didn't mean it like that. But making progress in a field that no one else did, the inspirational part of it, that I think captures people's imaginations more. It is right now for me. I'm like, oh shit, that's super cool.
This is why I wanted to get you in the pool.
No.
We can put you in the shallow end, but like just to see all that goes into water polo, because part of it is obviously the exhilarating aspect of being able to watch your team succeed. But the other thing is understanding the amount of work that goes into a sport for you to become that good. So like even me, when I first started, I came out of football freshman year. There was a lot of political stuff. And then Paul recruited me during spring water polo because my brother played. My brother was 2 years older. And I'm one of the bigger guys. In fact, senior year, I was one of our bigger players, which is why I played hold defense. But I was the weakest treader. I learned how to do egg beater sophomore year. The entire time, every practice, I was on the side of the pool holding the wall, learning egg beater, practicing egg beater, doing all of that. Anytime we played, what is it called, where you form the circle and you push against each other? I don't know, tread duel or whatever we called it.
Sounds like rugby, like the water version of the rugby scrum.
Yeah, so it's 1v1 and you're trying to push the other person out of the circle.
Okay.
Now, I was the weakest treader, but I was incredibly good because of wrestling to switch positions.
Yes.
So I would exhaust the other person. I'd still probably end up losing majority of the time, but I would exhaust them because it would take them so long to push me out because I'd keep rotating. So they had to keep pushing me around the whole circle before they could eventually overpower me and get me out.
Wow.
But I was the weakest treader on the team. I was a goalie. I could still get up, but it was all about reaction time.
Yeah.
Which I was incredibly good at from other sports. And Paul trained me by throwing the tennis balls against the wall and stuff. But I mean, If you hadn't played water polo, do you think you would have continued down the baseball path?
I probably would have. We're so lucky this day and age. I mean, go back to the Olympics. Like you talked about handball. I mean, man, if I was exposed to handball at an early age, maybe I would have played that, right? I think the kids nowadays, there's so much more for them, so much more opportunity for them to be great in any sport out there, or just to be exposed, which is going to help them later on in life. I think for me, look, my grandfather played under Bear Bryant on at Alabama, but was drafted by the Pittsburgh Pirates to play baseball. Got injured, ended up being a doctor in the army or in the war, and never actually played at the high level. But baseball was something that I grew up loving and knowing, and I definitely think I had my mom that was big time baseball, and that was my mom's dad, and my father who was water polo, and then eventually I just fell toward the water polo side. While if I didn't have water polo, I would have fallen toward the baseball side, And I look back and like, am I built for baseball success? Like, definitely still not tall, not the fastest, but I don't care. That's what they said to me about water polo, right?
Yeah.
Like, you're never going to make it, man. You're not fast. You're not big. You're not as strong. You're American. You're never going to go play in the top clubs over there in Europe because, these guys are so much smarter. And it's like, actually, when I started playing, that just fueled me even more. And I think it would have been the same in baseball. Like, if I decided this is what I was going to do, I think it would have been fine.
Do you think you had a chip on your shoulder that really pushed you? A little bit of FU energy?
Still do, still do. And I think going back to what I do now, right? I retired after the Rio Olympics. I was born in Rio. So that was a really cool Olympics. We didn't do that well. But finishing my career, everyone does two things. They leave the sport or they become a coach. That's all you really can do, right?
Yeah.
And I decided I'm not leaving and I'm not becoming a coach because our sport needs a bigger vision. We need the stadium. We need the academy that we created. We need more technology. We need to help, AI and video and everything together to get our sport, popular. And that's what I've done. And we partnered with Maggie Steffens, who's the best women's water polo player in the world. And we've created something special. And that's with that chip on my shoulder, right? Like, I love this sport. I'm not leaving it. And until it's ready to be left. Right.
Yeah.
What is this thing that you're referring to? Like this project?
Well, so essentially when I retired, I went around the world and basically was trying to figure out, what does our sport need? Right. So one of the first things I realized is there's talent all over the world, but kids that could maybe be D1 players, play professionally, Olympians, aren't taught how to egg beater at the right age. Right? They don't know how to go over their hips. They don't understand certain basics that in our sport, if you don't, your ceiling's so low. So I created the first water polo combine, right? Which now allows anyone around the world to understand where they rank with other kids and where they're weak so that they can improve. Oh. That was the first part. Maggie Steffens, myself, which is 6'8" is our company, 6 for her number, 8 was my number. And we created that. We now have over 40,000 people who've gone through it. And now we're trying to introduce statistics. So you use statistics in a better way with these measurables, put them together, and you start to find who your better athletes are and what these athletes need both during a game and out of the water physically to improve on. And now all of a sudden we're going to start to be able to grow these great athletes, right?
Gosh, I wish this happened 10 years ago. Because when I was, I actually put myself into the recruiting portal for water polo after junior year. Because I was, my first year starting, all-state honorable mention goalie. And the first thing they were like is like, all right, how fast is your 50? Do you swim? And it's like, I can't do a flip turn. I can do a 29 in the 50-yard free without a flip turn. But... Yeah. And they're like discounting me. You got to make this fast. You got to do all this. And it's like, I'm a goalie. Why do I need to swim that? I overpower people, and all of like my skills. I studied film, which was unheard of for water polo at the time. I studied every single person who would shoot. I learned their tendencies. And during this time, it was the 4 meter for the penalty shot. And we didn't track that stat, but I still think I have the most blocked penalty shots because there were a lot of penalty shots thrown against us. And then there were games where I had 20-something blocks. Like,
well, the best goalies, and I'll tell you a story about the goalie where I went to Croatia, one of the best goalies in the world. I go play for one of the best teams in the world. We lose twice in the Champions League final. And he brings me over and he goes, look, and he has all these books, right? And he goes, these 4 are you.
Yeah.
Usually has like a little notebook on everyone. He goes, these 4 are you. And I'm like, what do you mean? He goes, this is every shot you've ever taken on me, on that goalie, on that goalie. So he knew me so well, and that's exactly the what makes, especially on the goalkeepers. As a field player, you kind of let the game roll. You still analyze, but that's what we have on our app. There's goalie specific. There's all these videos for them to improve. There's videos for them to see, where they're weak and how for them to be better in a game, get more blocks, get more steals, and it just means you got to do it yourself. But now we're allowing kids from Ohio to say, hey, I'm going to get on this and I can be an Olympian because if I have these, I'll be fine as long as I have heart and work hard.
That's so fascinating to me because I would never have known that there was that much detail that goes into like planning for a match. The only closest thing I would possibly know is I know in chess, like they study games that have been played before, but I thought that was just because chess is a mental game. I didn't realize that do they do that in other sports too?
Oh, absolutely.
I know football probably they look at
football does, soccer, pretty much any sport, even individual sports where you're actually facing off against each other in fencing, they study each other's body movements and mechanics. In baseball in particular, they study the pitcher because if you see one thing where they tilt their gloves slightly when they're throwing this pitch, anything that gives you a tell or gives you an idea of where they're throwing. I learned that 3 players that we were playing in state, anytime they shot the ball, they would not look at the goal. When they were looking at the goal, I knew they would pass. But if they weren't looking at the goal, they were a threat to be shooting because they thought that was tricking me. But because they did that every time, I knew when I could adjust and plan to rotate as opposed to be ready to block a shot.
That's right. And water polo, for example, the first thing I would do before every game, eventually we had video so we knew, but like in high school and college when you didn't really have some of the video back in, pre-2008 era, and I would sit there and look and I'd watch the first 2 shots of a goalkeeper. If the goalie had a lot of white water, like splashing, that meant that they were using their hands a lot, which meant that they would jump if you got a good fake in. So I knew, okay, I'm just going to get one good fake. He's going to jump, and then I'm going to be able to beat him high, right? A goalie that you can see they're narrow like this means their hands are really deep. So it's going to take them a longer time to get over their head. So immediately I knew, go over the head.
A 5-hole.
That's right. And even if I don't, I do help our goalkeepers and I can coach goalies, but the easiest thing to tell is a field player. I call it 1 pump chumps or 1, 2 buckle my shoe. They all do the same thing. 1 pump, get up, shoot. 1, 2 buckle my shoe, get up, shoot. All of them. And they all get up before they shoot or they do some spin, something. And I could sit there behind and I'm a terrible goalkeeper. Terrible. Really. One of the worst. But I'll go in and I block these guys over and over. And they're like, how do you block me? I'm like, because you're idiots. I've told you,
you have
to stop
so many
doing
tells.
that. You have to, oh, he's shooting here. Oh, he's shooting here. It's easy.
It's the same thing in football. Quarterbacks will tap the ball. And they have to train them not to do that because then when they're throwing, so the defensive linemen know when to get their hands up and knock the pass down. You don't recognize it because we are creatures of habit. We will have certain things we do when we're going to do certain perspectives. Your 1-1-2 fake, there was one guy I played against, I think he was on Upper Arlington. If he pumped twice, would go to my left. If he pumped once, he would go to my right.
Yep.
There was not a single game where I wasn't playing that I wasn't watching who we were playing next. The Ohio Cup, whether it was up in Michigan when we started the year, even as when I was playing Hole D, I learned that because I had my buddy Lorenzo, who was a foreign exchange student from Italy, in goal, and they moved me to field. And so I would be able to read what they were going to do, and also it would communicate with Lorenzo. And basically before every game, I would talk him through the players that I already knew the tendencies of. And then at the same time, I would tell him like, all right, if this guy has the ball, I'm going to lean to the right more so that you can cover the left side of the goal. That way I'm out of your way for if he shoots this way, because he shoots here this higher percentage of the time than this way. And I know I'll be able to block it with my right hand going on this side.
This is why I love water polo so much. Because look, I have respect for all the individual, all sports, all athletes, all feats of life. But in water polo, you are playing one of the hardest sports in the world. I believe the hardest sport in the world, because you have to swim, you have to do legs, you have to do hours of gym, you have to shoot, you have a guy drowning you all while you're doing that. But the biggest thing about all this, we're in the water and you're still having to play chess. It's always 2 steps ahead. And this is why, like, my teaching, we start with the fundamentals, but if I can help you understand and react, you'll be great. Because it's easy when a player right now, they look and make a decision, that's too late. You need to look and understand everything else that you need to do. To do that, it takes so much studying. It takes you just giving yourself to the sport. It takes repetition, which is why California, for example, is stronger than outside of California in a lot, because they're playing tougher competition and more competition. But I don't believe that a kid outside can't be better. And I think a lot of time we're seeing those kids are better because they haven't had that competition and they're just as good, right? But I think as a country, where are we behind the Europeans, let's say, is that we don't watch water polo as much.
Yep.
We'll get in and we'll play. And there's kids in California that I bet have played twice as many games as everyone in Hungary and Serbia and Croatia, yet they'll go and lose by 20. Why is that? Because they don't watch. They're not as smart. And if you look in basketball, I guarantee any basketball player who's going to be in the NBA that has a television is watching the playoffs, right? But in water polo, if there is water polo, they don't watch it.
On top of that, there's the fundamental of kind of like you get to a point to where you're dominant, and it's like, why do I need to put in more effort? I can beat anybody I get in the pool with. And so you're not continuing to rise and continuing to prove your level unless you have the chip on your shoulder, which I had coming into water polo from a different sport, being like, I'm the worst swimmer on the team. I'm the worst treader on the team. How can I put myself in a position to be successful? And that was the mental game, entirely studying and anticipating. And so, like, it's one of those things that if you compete even at the highest level in the United States, you're not rising even higher because you're already dominating, but you're dominating against competition that isn't as great as you would over in Croatia or Serbia or places over there.
I blanked out I was so lost.
I was
he was talking a paragraph ago, I was just like, oh, I'm trying. California's good. They don't play as many games. Serbia sucks. That's all I remember.
Wait, Serbia doesn't suck.
Serbia's great. And then America's better. That's what I learned. All this really like boils down to is like, I'm so curious. I know water polo is your passion. Do you still enjoy it? Like at this level, when you've gotten this far, when you've done it for this long, when you've gone to the Olympics multiple times, do you still enjoy it as much? Is it still fun? Like, can you still relax with it? Or do you have another hobby that you relax with?
No, I love it.
Okay, all right, easy answer.
I love it, and I love teaching the kids. I love, all the academy stuff. I love watching it. I could sit there and watch it. I love getting in. But I don't want to play ever again.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And it's just, there's one, and I don't want to look bad, talk bad on refs per se, right? But water polo is very subject to a referee's call, which makes sense, right? It's 2 individuals that clearly think different, that have totally different backgrounds, and are going to make a decision based on what they believe, right? Problem is, let's fast forward to me playing now Masters or older, and it's like, well, that's Tony. He should be fine. And then the players I play against are like, ooh, I want to prove myself against Tony. So I might have played 3 games when I was officially done playing, and that's the only thing I disliked. And one of the reasons I stopped playing, I wanted to come home, be a dad, be home with my kids, but it was really got to be frustrating where it was always like, yeah, I should be better than everyone else, instead of like, no, man, I gave my time. that guy shouldn't touch me. Like my mind.
And I also think too, reputation plays a huge role because it's not like football where you have so many different players, but even then that reputation plays a role in how a ref calls something. So like, and there's so few officials in the United States in particular that you develop a personal relationship with it. So they know you. They know if you like gave them a mean look after they made a call that you didn't agree with, or they see you and they're like, oh yeah, you're the best. I'll let the other person play longer because they anticipate that you'll do more. So it's like, in a way, without realizing that there's some bias that can occur, especially in officiating, because these guys see the same players over and over and over again. And there was one particular ref in high school who drove me up a wall. Absolutely. And luckily, somehow we managed to win state with him officiating. But he was, we did not like him. We did not like how he called the game. But luckily, the other official that was with him for the state championship was our favorite one because we felt like he knew the rule book the best.
So you balanced it out.
So it balanced it out. But it was one of those things where it was just like almost every time we had that official, it felt like there was a bias against us.
And I think, look, for people watching it for the first time, I think that's the two things that are confusing because it's not that difficult, right? I mean, I think it's more like basketball, transition center, right? You're moving together to try to get that goal. It has that soccer feeling to it.
It's a lot of whistles though.
But the whistles are confusing. Mm-hmm. The whistles and whistles is just a foul, which means nothing in water polo. There's a million of them. Mm-hmm. So I think that's the first thing that a fan looks at and is like, I don't understand until you get by and realize the whistle is just gives them 2 seconds or 3 seconds to pass the ball, that it doesn't mean anything. And then the other one is, okay, you finally understand the rules, and then a referee calls something or doesn't call something. And that's when you as a fan are like, now I'm really confused because you told me on the podcast that if they grab their head, it's an exclusion. Mm-hmm. And he just did that and they didn't call it, right? Wow. And that's where we have to do a better job in our sport. But also that's where we have to understand these are two different individuals. One may be more inclined to allow head grabbing.
I see.
That's a bad example, I think. But one may be more inclined to allow you to play harder, while one will kick you out if you touch the player.
Which is also a thing in football, like leniency on pass interference versus not.
Are the refs in the water?
No.
Is one in the water, one out?
No.
Well, then what do they know? They're not even swimming.
I mean,
agree.
honestly,
if you want me to badmouth anyone, I don't have any skin in the game. I'll smear their name all over the internet. I don't care.
I mean, he brought up a great point when we were doing the primers. Like, is there a scuba ref underneath the water? And I feel like that would be an interesting thing if there was actually a scuba official under the water who could just like radio up that like.
Well, then
this
you're gonna get like
pulling.
halfway through a game. It's like, hey, where's that other ref? Uh-oh. Oh, God.
Oh no,
His tank got tangled.
You remember that dirty player?
He swam down.
He went right down, pulled it off, and now that guy. But imagine how hard it would be. I mean, obviously, that's why underwater cameras would be really fun and interesting for the game. But imagine how much. First off, you have 6 players again, so there's 12 players fighting each other.
Yeah.
So how you almost have to have one per player, and then they're sprinting at a level of, on average, these guys swim. You know, you said a 29 in the 50, which is a good example. They swim probably in 19-20 seconds in a 50. So they are so fast. So they are getting to the other side of the pool like a normal human jogging. So these scuba divers would have to fly on their fins.
They're torpedoes.
Torpedo to the other side, get the film, fly back. Like their oxygen tanks would be done.
Maybe we just put it at a glass floor and they're all standing underneath looking up through the glass.
I like that.
This all just reminds me of, I totally forgot about this sport. It's not a real sport. It was in a video game. But there was this game called Final Fantasy X. Either you know what I'm getting at.
I know what you're getting at.
So there's a game in that game called Blitzball, which I just realized is water polo, but in this fictional world, it's a sphere of water, and they hold their breath for like 30 minutes. It's totally impossible. But I loved playing that game. In that game. It's a game in a game, and it's so hard to describe, but it's a sports game inside of a battle RPG. Doesn't make any sense at all, but that was my favorite part of the game, is like this water polo. If there was a way to get like compact scuba gear and have a completely submerged version of water polo, would you be interested in that at all?
Anything that has water polo attached to it, I would. But see, now this is telling me that there is this deep down desire in you that only came out through gaming, that you truly actually, your mind is telling you you want to be underwater.
Kinda.
It is.
A safe way, maybe. I need to stress it was a fictional world. I can't help my. But if I'm now thinking of it like if it was something where you had air tanks, it could be cool because then you'd have to regulate your air consumption and you got to go get an air tank change. You got to not die. There's a little bit of danger in there. I'm like, oh, I would watch that.
I like it. I just, again, I always go back. There's never been a team I played with against that didn't have that one player.
Oh yeah, gotta rip your line out.
You're gonna you always assume you're gonna have that one player.
I mean, do you think there's a market for a water polo video game? There's the NCAA football that eventually went away. We obviously have Madden. We have 2K for NBA. We have MLB The Show for baseball. Like, do you think that's a huge way that water polo could break through to become more knowledgeable?
Absolutely. So one of the things that our company has done, so the statistics, right, and the power, and that physical power in the water, and what that's done is help create kind of, when you played, was it Mortal Kombat or whatever, you had a feature or an what do they call it, an avatar?
Oh yeah,
and then it'd be like speed 10. Strength 4, but you would be able to no, I want the 10 because I want speed in this one, or I want the super smart guy who's maybe a little. Well, we can start to do that now, and I think that would help when you can do a USA versus Hungary. You can say, well, they're strong here, or pick your own athletes, which I think would be more exciting for the athletes themselves. And you can pick your power, because not a team with all speed's going to win.
Nope.
Not a team with all strength's going to win, right? So pick your balance and then let the game find itself. I definitely think the fun thing about water polo is no one done anything and is doing anything. Like, we're doing virtual reality right now. So kids get in the goggles and they're in the game. And I'm like, what are you looking at? They're like, here. And I'm like, wrong. You should be looking there. What are you doing? Look there. But it's helping them because you tell them and they're so tired in the sun and they're in the water. They think they know. And now they're in these goggles in an air-conditioned chair. And they're like, oh, okay, so that's what you meant. Okay, I should be looking there. And then that's getting that repetition we talked about.
Those mental reps.
You know what would be cool is, do you watch much anime?
No.
There's a whole subgenre of anime, which is Japanese animation, of sports anime, where there's entire shows dedicated to very specific sports. There's swimming anime, there's tennis anime, there's baseball anime, because baseball's huge in Japan. I wonder if there is a water polo anime, and I bet if there isn't, that is actually a very accessible way to bring water polo to like the entertainment sphere and getting more people interested in watching. It's hyper dramatized, like it's way excessive. Get ready for fireballs on these water polos if that was ever happen. Are you looking up if
I'm trying to, but somehow I disconnected from the Wi-Fi and it's not appearing.
But I don't think that there is, and I think that could be an avenue to approach.
I love that. And Japan has just come on the scene. They invested in their water polo program in Tokyo. They, in my opinion, had been the most innovative team in the world. They created this new style of defense that's high risk, high reward. And I do feel like I've seen anime water polo players, but I don't know if there's an actual...
You got a show?
I do.
What do we got?
It's called Remain. Re-Main. M-A-I-N. Apparently, it's just started in 2021 in its first season. But it is a water polo anime.
What's the rating?
7.2 out of 10 on my anime list, 4.7 out of 5 for Crunchyroll, and 7.2 out of 10 on IMDb.
Pretty good.
I like Crunchyroll's rating.
Yeah. Now that's a judge I can get behind. Not that biased other one, whatever the name is.
Hey, that's where most people watch their anime, especially in the US. So.
Yeah, if we get sponsored by them, we'll watch our anime there too.
The other thing too that's been so interesting to me in water polo, I feel like it's the one sport where the rules have changed so much, like in a short amount of time. Since I played, when I first started, there was still the 7 meter. Then by my senior year, it switched to just the 5 meter line. Now it's moved to the 5 meter as the penalty marker, but now it's the 6 meter line. And then they're adding a goal area. Like, do you think that's possibly part of the problem why it makes it hard for people to get in? Because it's like once you learn the rules, then all of a sudden it changes.
100%. I've been one that, and again, when they create these rules, some are cool, except I know how the rules are made. It's a couple guys at a lunch in Eastern Europe with bottles of wine, and they go, "Hey, I think this is how it should be," that's how it changes. Instead of like, tell me that water polo needs to be less violent, more violent, and prove it to me. Show me on 20 water polo games, when there's a hit, were there people louder or were they not? Right? When there wasn't, it was a clean game, but close game. Like, show me the stats that tell me that we should change the sport to this direction, right? And it's none. Yeah. We don't use that, and that's my problem. Like, I'm all for changing rules. Now they're adding all these rules to football and basketball. You know why? Because the fans are pissed.
Yeah.
They're pissed. It's not fair that guy scored a touchdown. You didn't call it a touchdown, and we have the technology to say that was a touchdown. So let's change it. Water polo is not like that. It's, you don't listen to the fans, you don't listen to the players, you don't listen to coaches. It's a couple people that are making decisions, and they make them so often that by the time we in the US, Australia, everyone outside of Europe catches up, they change it again.
Yep.
Right? There has never been, besides the US, there's never been in the history of water polo, the modern era, anyone outside of Europe winning a gold medal on the men's side. Nobody.
But the women's side has.
The women's side has, because the women started in 2000. And in 2000, women played with the men. So I remember my first bloody nose came from one of the greatest American water polo players of all time when I was 13 years old. Just boom, right to the nose.
Did she rear up and punch you? Or
no, she was good. She was just like a quick elbow. And I was like, what the? But
I mean, that's something that I will always say is, for whatever reason, every time I've hopped in the pool with women's players and even coaching them, for whatever reason, they are more violent than the men's.
The way.
Oh my God. I watched a college game. My brother played at Purdue, the club team. One of the games, one of the players in the middle of the game just reared up and punched out a girl mid-pool. And like, I'm sitting here like, usually people are like, well, the women, they're lesser. I'm like, there's no way. For one, having played against them, had like played physically against women in co-ed water polo and other stuff, there are women out there that would absolutely dominate men in particular sports. And I think that's the greatest thing I think in water polo. I like in pickleball, I enjoy watching women's more than men's because of the way that they play is more of a chess match, whereas men's is just hit it as hard as you possibly can.
That's right.
And so and you see in women's water polo, like the amount of churning and the stuff that they do is so different. So much so that when we played the men's team versus the girls team, we switched goalies. And it drove me nuts that they weren't playing defense the way that I wanted them to. And there were far more shots on goal that I couldn't anticipate because I expected them to press up and then slough here, do that. But when I played against women shooting, they had this style of shooting that threw me completely off. I thought they were going right, and then they'd flick the wrist and it'd go left. I'm like, what is this? And it's just so interesting, the difference in play and the physicality difference that I've seen between men's and women's water polo. And then hearing the women's like only recently kind of started up, particularly in the US and the Olympics. Yeah. And they've been dominant.
Yes. I mean, it was first introduced in the 2000 Olympics, my first Olympics, and then they won bronze and I think silver, and then finally this coach, Adam Krikorian, who's the new head coach, took over, and they have won gold ever since. That being said, the Europeans are catching up.
Yeah.
Right? Because there was only 6 teams, really. Australia, Canada, US were the more dominant ones because, they had women playing men with men at a young age while Europe wasn't, especially some of these Eastern Europeans. And now Russia, Now, slowly Serbia, Croatia are getting team. Hungary's amazing. Spain might be our biggest competition this next Olympics.
They looked really good last year. So
very good. So with time, if we don't fix our innate problems that we have, eventually that pool will be just as big and we're still going to be catching up, right? Because physically, passion, everything, I believe we're better than all of them. Mm-hmm. But are we smarter than all of them? We're not. We're not, right? And eventually you're going to start to see that. So we need to start fixing that problem now, right?
Do you feel a sense of responsibility now that you're not playing anymore, like to continue this reaching for greatness in terms of the American players? Because it seems like, there's no league, there's no stadiums or anything right here. It seems like everyone is trying to, well, not trying to, but all these other sports are trying to like stay in the limelight and stuff like that. So it's like, it's not actively pushing out, but do you feel this responsibility to nurture this love for the sport in the next generation of players?
I do because I look back at my career and I didn't accomplish the one thing I really wanted to accomplish, right? Like my career, I had a very wonderful career. I was able to get sponsorships. I was able to play professional when there was, the salaries were great. I was able to do what I did at Stanford and get a full ride over there. I didn't win a gold medal, right? And that would have changed a lot, right? Being the only country ever outside of Europe to win that gold medal. We came close. And I believe until we do that, it's going to continue the way it is. And we need to break through that barrier and to prove that, hey, no, we're the best. And then I think everything else will start falling as well. But I'm doing it the opposite. I'm not playing anymore. Mm-hmm. So hopefully a lot of these athletes who come through our 6-8 Academy, a lot of these athletes I'm able to teach. And hopefully if I can get pull and continue with the statistics, that slowly I can build the sport to maybe have a professional league. And now the exposure is a lot more and we can start to get smarter and start to win that gold medal.
Mm-hmm.
So talking about your history and your life as it's led up to where you are now, if you were to make a movie, perhaps like a biopic or something like that, who would you like to play you in that movie? This was an audience question.
Oh, I see.
Interesting. Well, you got to think, there's a lot of big guys I'd love to have out there, but I'm just not a big guy.
You like The Rock? You want The Rock?
Oh man, I want who's the guy Australian guy from Aquaman?
Jason Momoa.
Oh, the guy. Come on, just give me that guy.
Right,
dude.
right now you got some Bradley Cooper vibes.
I could feel that. I could feel that.
So Bradley Cooper, I get the most, 100%, and I get it. I got stopped in an airport. Can I take a picture with you? And there was like 2 of them. And I was like, that's awesome. Water polo is getting so popular. They thought I was Bradley Cooper.
Hey, at least you're getting recognized. I know Tony Hawk doesn't. People are like, I don't believe you. You're not Tony Hawk. So
exactly. So I would say actually Bradley Cooper. I'm a big Brad Pitt guy.
Okay, I could
so
see
I'd
that
say
too.
Between those two, I would. If I could choose anyone, let me choose those two.
Mm-hmm.
All right, fair.
Cool.
One last question. If you watch sports, you have your favorite team, you're Masters with the Ohio Squirrels and everything. All right, but you can't pick any team you were part of. What is your favorite team to root on and cheer for? Since our name is Go My Favorite Sports Team, who is your favorite sports team
in
or
any
person?
Sport, it doesn't
any
have to
sport,
be.
yeah.
It might be water polo, but any sport.
Can't be ones that you coach or anything.
So the Rams.
Okay, Los Angeles Rams.
Yeah, look, I'm a Laker fan my whole life. Lakers right now in the playoffs. Go Lakers. We watch them tonight. But, I would say growing up, the Lakers and the Rams are two that just have stuck with me. I mean, Magic Johnson back in the day and Kobe Bryant. I would actually change from the Rams to the Lakers because, I know so much more history about the Lakers. But I think just sitting down and watching them, it's just that I've become such more of a football fan now. I love football. And the Rams are now pretty good. We won a Super Bowl a little bit ago.
Well, we don't.
No, we don't want to talk about that. We're both from Cincinnati.
It's so funny. We started this podcast, and like Cincinnati, my hometown too, was in the Super Bowl. And Tyler was like, "You watched the game, right?" And I went,
I was on a plane.
Was on a plane.
And I'm like, they have live TV.
That's right.
But I still felt it. I felt it. I think it was a close game.
It was. But also, you had been in Cincinnati, so you got to experience something I didn't. During
There
that
was a
time,
lot
too,
of pride in Cincinnati because they hadn't been even to the Super Bowl
since 1989.
Yeah, and
literally a few days before.
That was the last time they were even like won a game.
That
in
was
playoffs.
Burrow's first year, right?
Yeah.
Second year, because
Second
he
year.
got injured in the first year.
Never mind. I didn't. I knew that. I knew all that. Yeah.
Judgment. So much judgment. Right now.
Well, anyway, thank you so much for joining us on this lovely podcast. I learned a lot. I did learn a lot. It's really great to get these like perspectives and hear this humanity behind these sports, because a lot of time when you're learning about the sport here, and for me from Tyler, it can be a lot about like the statistics and the rules and stuff like that, trying to like get the primer. But what always has captivated me is like the spirit of the sport, the actual heart that goes into it, the work that goes into it, the humanity of it. And so thank you so much for bringing that perspective here. It really did. It illuminated a lot of why he speaks so highly of this sport and speaks so highly of you. He has spoken about you many times. And now I have a face to know what the name is.
Yeah. And for the last thing, I just want to give you a platform to go ahead and shout out your socials, anything you want people to follow, support, check out that you're working on. Obviously, you have your podcast. Anything you want to put out there for all of our listeners and viewers?
Yeah, thank you guys. It's been an honor, and this is helping our sport. You know, for me, at Water Polo Tony, I have Azevedo Water Polo and 68 Sports. Follow 68sports.com, at 68 Sports on Instagram, and you know, we're really trying to revolutionize this sport. And between our academy and the statistics that we're doing, and just in general of the athletes and Olympians we have giving back to the sport, it's exciting. And I do believe one day we'll have our own stadium and we'll have our own professional league, and water polo will be one of the bigger sports out there. And I do believe that, and I have a chip on my shoulder, so I won't stop until it's done.
All
so
right.
thank you guys again.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm excited for that moment. But yeah, this has been a great conversation, and I really enjoyed having you on. And hopefully, it won't be the only time.
He's got these ideas to get me in the pool learning water polo. So if you're around at some time, and I am not incredibly busy, whatever that day that we're going to schedule it for, which I think I will be, but maybe someday in the future I can learn how to.
We'll bring you guys can bring Maggie and talk about how much meaner they are than we are.
Oh yeah, I would absolutely 100% be down for that.
What? You were just telling me about how the women's league was punching people directly in the face.
You know, it's fine. It's fine. We're not in the pool. We're not competing. It's fine. You're safe. This is safe space. Do you think we could get mics in the pool?
Oh, they make waterproof mics.
Yeah.
Cool. Then we could be in the pool and do an episode, trading water the whole time. Anyway, thank you all so much for listening. I'm both terrified to see how well I do in your little combine, but also would love to see where I'm at now. But that's for another time.
What way to talk down about it in your little combine.
No, it's not. No.
Thing that you do. I'd love to see how well I do.
Little. It's a big
I got
deal.
cannons for arms. I don't know if you're heard.
And one of the first Masters teams to do it was the Squirrels.
Yep.
I took it to Masters and they loved it. Radar gun.
Yeah.
See that rocket arm of yours?
You know it. I've hit you with dodgeballs.
I didn't hurt that bad.
Anyway, follow the podcast if you want to see it on video, which if you're not already here, go to Spotify. We're exclusive video on Spotify. And definitely go out, check out Water Polo and follow Tony in all the places and check out his podcast.
6-8. What was the website again?
6-8sports.com.
6-8sports.com.
All right. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next time.
Yes.
Bye.
Bye.